Welcome. Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you are here. It's good to see some new faces and some familiar faces. We're going to go ahead and get started today. So my name is Sarah McAllister. I am the Senior Associate Director for the Office of Alumni Career and Professional Development. And Nina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Nina Revo. I'm the Assistant Director of the Career and Professional Development of Alumni Tulane, and I'll be all things tech today. So if you have any issues, you can just direct message me in the chat.
Perfect. So I'm going to do a very quick intro in terms of kind of what we can expect today and the really wonderful conversation. We have Katie Crook, who's going to be our actual official host. And so Caitlin, I'll let you introduce yourself kind of once I get on the other side of the housekeeping piece. And of course, we are very excited to have Henry Burrell as our guest speaker. So before I get into Henry's bio, this session is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with our YouTube channel, we have over 70 videos from previous PDS sessions on lots of different topics under the umbrella of career and professional development. And Nina will share that link in the chat below. As I am kind of going through the intro, we would love for you to introduce yourselves in the chat and where you are joining from. That's always a really fun thing to see where everyone is from. Okay, so I think that's it from the housekeeping. So today we are talking about economic development through the lens of community growth. And we are, again, so grateful for Henry and Caitlin's time today. So a little bit about Henry. He is a grad from a Tulane grad 04 and 05. And he is all about the world of community-driven economic advancement. A little bit about his background is for over 30 years, he excelled in leadership roles within the food and beverage industry across the United States. He is a skilled strategist, and he developed market plans, launched successful restaurants, and streamlined operational processes. His collaborative approach fostered meaningful partnerships at every level. And Caitlin's going to guide the conversation through how he has kind of moved into his business model and current organization, working within his community, all around, again, through that community-based, community-driven economic development. And so, Henry, I would love if there's anything else that you want to share about yourself. And then Caitlin, I will let you take it away. So thank you both for being here.
No, well, it's a pleasure to be here. And there's really not a great addition to that, except to say that a huge part of my journey is family driven. I would not be here without them and the support of people who love me. So thank you very much for having me here.
Wonderful. We're, ecstatic that you're here with us today. I want to introduce myself really quickly. I'm Katie Crook, Assistant Director of Affinity Programs here with Alumni Relations. I'm also a 2021 Tulane grad as well. So today, kind of our goal of the conversation is to learn about Henry's professional journey, and we're going to talk about some takeaways for anyone that's interested in pursuing roles in economic development, as well as kind of understanding what it looks like to make a career pivot. So I want to start off with kind of the very first question is, what really inspired you to transition from the food and beverage industry to community-led economic development?
Yeah, so great question. Primarily, I'm old, and I had to find something else to do with additions to my family. So you get to a point in your career where you want to take those skills and figure out how do you make your community in which you live a little bit better. So that's what it is. My professional career really was hinged upon growth and development of individuals, talent selection, succession planning, and making sure that there was a sound leadership ladder to the organization to carry out any company's agenda. So finding talent, developing the talent, making them the best that they can be, exposing them to different experiences so they can function at the next level is what I'm versed in. My wife and I both share the same passion about developing people. So when we looked into this community, we found that there was a gap that was there and that we can occupy that space with some of our professional corporate background. So that's how we've kind of like pivoted from restaurants to now community service.
That makes a lot of sense. And it kind of sounds like a lot of those things are transferable. So it seems like it was kind of an easy transition or pivot. But I also wanted to ask, just to kind of give the audience a baseline, you know, it could kind of feel like economic development and community growth are like really hot buzzwords. But in your mind, how do you really define those ideas and what do they actually mean in kind of your everyday, you know, in your line of work?
Yeah, so let's talk about economic development. There's a section of Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, that did a lot of research. They have two really huge organizations that are based out of there. Tyson Chicken is there, and also the Walmart corporate office is there. And what their Chamber of Commerce looked at was these two businesses hire and employ about 20,000 people each. So it's 40,000 jobs, which is great. So they looked at a model and they said 20 years from now, what will those companies employ? And it was the same number of people. So to them, they said there's no economic growth there. There's maintenance and there's revenue, but there's no growth. So they focused their attention into developing innovative revenue streams. So they've taken grant money, tax dollars to reinvest into incubators and ways that small businesses can be developed to a point where they're successful after their 5 or 6 year incubation period. They also spend a huge amount of time and money trying to get people to relocate from other states to Northwest Arkansas. So I remember one of their advertisements, they have a billboard in Texas that says, things ain't better in Texas, come to Arkansas. So really that effort was there. So how do you recreate that in our area of Arkansas? And we're Northeast Arkansas, of which Jonesboro is the highest concentration of resources that, you know, I'll get to a little bit later. But that's how I define economic growth. Community growth, or its role in all of this is relating it to a business ideology, the succession plan. We have in our city, a gentleman named is Tony Thomas. He's the COO of the city. He is the second in command behind the mayor. The question is what systems or programs are there to develop the next Tony Thomas out of the minority community? That was my first question. What organizations are there that help build those skill sets and those networking opportunities for either minority children or any child to get to the next level? And there is a definitive gap, or I would say that there's some opportunity. So that's how I would define the two. You know, how do we create innovative revenue streams for the community? And then community growth is basically what's going to be the succession plan. And that's how we started to develop our programming and our strategy to move our organization forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it kind of sounds like when I hear that, like the theme that I keep hearing is kind of like looking towards the future and like the next generation and the legacy and things of that nature. So I was kind of doing a little research on your business association. I saw that you guys had 3 kind of main pillars: dream, inspire, and incubate. Can you kind of speak to what those are and how your organization decided on these pillars and how they influence each other?
Yeah, so we've been in existence since 2021, but we didn't launch our first program until last year. Okay, so we took a year to figure out what we wanted to do, and there's 3 things that we build into every decision that we make. Number one is, what is the scope of our projects? meaning like, who do we want to help? Okay. And so we looked at, various zip codes, and we looked at what big businesses that paid over $40,000, what zip code were they in? And then we looked at the per capita income of those people, and we found out that the jobs that are in that pay 40,000 or more are in one particular zip code, but the people who below that live in that zip code. The people who make more than that, more than 40,000, live someplace else. So that creates an opportunity, okay, for being defined as a particular group. We narrowed that down a little bit by saying which group in this zip code area will have the most transformative impact if we concentrated our time and our resources towards that. And so that's what we came up with our youth. And we started junior high school, which is the dream phase. Junior high school and adolescents, their psychology, their brains are trying to figure out who they are. So putting children in front of people that they don't traditionally or would not traditionally have an opportunity to meet is what we do. And so we say mentorship, but we really follow a model of putting the kids in front of someone that we call a significant non-parental adult, okay? And if you think about, each one of us has a particular person that's changed by chance the trajectory of our lives. For me, it's some of my teachers. I know later on in life, a pivotal person was a lady named Hope Enclave, who just spoke life into me at a moment and changed the direction that I was going in. So that's one thing, like, how do you build a program around that? The second phase, which we call Inspire, is directed towards high school students. And that program launches in August of this year. And it is a high school entrepreneurial program where we're not trying to replace an after-school program. We're not trying to replace a teacher or anything, but we're trying to figure out how can we have a workshop that takes what a student is learning, giving it relevance to what they're passionate about, giving them a little bit of history behind it. And so they can come at the end of their high school career, come up with a pretty good life plan about what they need to do, whether that's, I think I have a business idea that I want to do on my own. I need to continue my education. I'll go the 2-year route and then jump into this thing and apprentice, or I'll go the 4-year route and go through all the necessary schooling that I need to do to get to where I want to go. The worst thing that can happen in that scenario is we have workforce development or we have economic development, because now youth are now launching businesses that have some sort of impact on the community. The third phase, incubate, is now that I have this idea, I'm not ready to go 100% yet, all right? I'm just starting. The incubate is the concept is a freestanding facility where office space can be rented on a short-term basis. There's a conference room, small, medium, and large, and there's an auditorium. The hope is that our anchor institutions, the city government, the university, the Chamber of Commerce, anybody that we would deem as an entrepreneurial ecosystem expert will have space in there. So all of our entrepreneurs, as they eat, drink, and commune and meet and collaborate with each other, have specific contact with someone who can take them from point A to point B to point C to point D. And then if you're not ready, someone gives you an honest assessment what you need to do to send you back to the right group, connect you to the right resource that can help you get to the next step. So that's what the ultimate goal. So if we start a kid at 12, okay, by the time they're 25, the city now has a brick and mortar building that's adding to its tax revenue. And that's the whole idea. What we've seen is so many people, look, I have family that challenges me on this all the time. It's hard to start a business in your 50s, right? When you have 50-year-old bills attached to you, tuition, car note, house note, your extracurricular activities. If you take that same passion and drive, but you put it in the body of a 16-year-old that's making $500 a month, they're banking that. And so at the end of their high school program, now they have a little bit of a nest egg. And if you put them in this incubator and you help cultivate those ideas, now they can move into the brick and mortar stage. And so that's where we have that innovative revenue. And we say these two things, and then I'll stop talking for a second. In somebody's classroom right now is the next big idea. It just needs to be cultivated, okay? There's a level of innovation. If you look at my generation, we didn't have Facebook. So we didn't connect the way that we do now. We didn't have this apparatus. This comes from innovation. So more innovation benefits an older generation and inspires an even younger generation. So we need to push that button. And the other one is, I can always show on paper our 5-year strategic plan. But what we really talk is a 5-decade plan. If I do the things that I need to do properly, I won't be around to see the success of this program, okay? But laying the seed and the groundwork to build off of that and making sure we have a strong foundation for the next leadership group that can continue this is what my purpose is right now. So we're really working on the 5-decade plan.
I love that. In my mind, it's very long-term strategy, long-term plan, but it seems like, the way that you've laid it out, that's the way to be most successful. But I kind of want to talk about when you were speaking, you were talking about the university and other, entrepreneur ecosystems. So what came to mind was collaboration, with different local stakeholders and whatnot. Can you kind of speak to, how, like, what is the collaborative process, in order to achieve the economic development goals and the community growth?
Yeah, so, wow, that's a complex question that has a lot of things that go with it. Standing alone, city government, regional government, and even the university, Chamber of Commerce, cannot achieve certain things on their own. They have the best intentions, but there are natural barriers that come about that really exclude certain groups of people. So here in Jonesboro, we have Arkansas State University that has a huge facility and efforts towards economic development. The problem is that if I never went to college, I'm not stepping on that campus. There's a level of intimidation that goes along with it. So I don't take advantage of those resources. We are looking into a mental health component that we feel is a challenge for adolescents. We found from the program last year. The university has a low-cost counseling center that no one's going to step on the campus to get to that part. So even though it's there, there's this natural barrier that prevents people. So collaboration for me is, and we call it in our plan, it's a level of integration where we need to have representatives from the private sector. So that's privately owned businesses, right? We need seats of power at city government, not, we need policymakers, policy changers, okay? They're present in this collaborative effort. And your regional, local government, a county government needs to be there as well, seats of power. So having someone who's a secretary in the mayor's office, not really going to work, okay? You really need to have and make those connections to get someone who can change policy in the same room as the people of need, if that makes any sense. So that design needs to be that way. We have decided that we put that list of who we want in the room together in about 6 months. But to make that collaborative effort effective, it's really going to take about 3 years, okay? 2 years on the short side, because you have to build trust. You have to build what's in it for me for each particular organization, you have to respect each organization's, each one at the city, the regional and private sector, and even the community-based organizations that represent those that are in need. Everybody has a different mission, culture, and value that they want to protect. So how do you build all of that together into a cohesive thing? That takes time. So I share the same passion as a group here called Jonesboro Unlimited. Okay. So how do we work together? So I got invited to a meeting. I had to ferret that person out, and I've created a presentation that will say we're aligned. How can we join? So a large part of that is, now do I know who I want to be in this collaborative effort? I need to network and get a chance to meet those people. And that networking is a skill. And look, my Tulane experience helped me not to be afraid to be in rooms of people who are much different than me, who have a different experience than me, who come from a different economic background than I do and stuff. So networking and getting to know people, building relationships is a key once you establish who you want to collaborate with. So
I love that. And then I kind of like how you spoke to the barriers that individuals in your program might face, but kind of talking a little bit more broadly, can you talk about any barriers or challenges that you and your organization have encountered in kind of fostering economic growth and like your journey?
Yeah, so a large part of there's several. So one of them is we are all siloed. Okay, we're all siloed, and those who have a dream or a mandate or a mission about helping the underserved, we're all fighting for the same grant dollars as well. Okay, so that's number one, fighting for the same grant dollars limited. There's a certain level, again, I'm not going to say ego, but my culture, my organizational culture, our mission statement, what we have decided to do, people want to protect that. And so that becomes different. So I'm fighting for $1. I want to be who I am. Okay. And then the other part is challenges that I've seen for organizations and for us, and that's why we took the first year just to think about who it is that we are, is nobody puts together a logic model. Okay. How do you stay focused on your agenda, or do you change who you are to go for a particular grant? So those things right there, not having a logic model and not being grounded in your mission is step number one. Two, being siloed about this is what I want to do and there's no other organization like me and I want to keep it that way so we don't share resources. And then the other one is just protecting your turf because the grant dollars are limited. So I've been fortunate enough to meet with a couple of nonprofits where we kind of like share the same value. If you think of what I do with the youth as preventative, there's another subcategory called protective against negative child experiences. So we prevent kids. If you follow our program and you become an entrepreneur, it's better. That's better than a life on the street, right? And you offer alternatives. Getting together and finding those groups and finding what you all want to do together creates, again, helps out with feeling, sorry, I got a little jumbled, helps in bringing all of that together. So I've begun to do that. I have a relationship with the former mayor here in Jonesboro who introduced me to a gentleman just yesterday who has a similar mindset as I do towards the youth, but his program has been going on for 30 years in LA. He was invited to do it in Memphis and he's trying to do it here in Jonesboro. But again, we just began yesterday. So the networking part of it becomes, again, the biggest problem. And then I would say after that, making sure that you have a product or a service that resonates with the community. Again, meaning a sound business plan, something that's sustainable over years, something that continuously has volunteers, and that you have the ability to create your own revenue, because you can't be completely grant driven the whole time. So you have to be able to give back to the community.
That makes a ton of sense. And I guess my next question on the flip side of challenges, can you share any specific successes that you've encountered while trying to foster economic growth?
Oh, yeah. So I think in our plan, we continually want to, and we say this all the time, we want to create within the mind of the community, of our stakeholders, that we are a credible, responsible, and respectable organization. We want people to trust us. Okay. How do you do that? One, we're very focused on the next right step, not the next big step, the next right step. So what has that led to us? Well, our program is launched in Annie Camp Junior High School. We had 50 kids in one particular program. We launched a bridge program that would take you from phase 1 to phase 2 that ended up getting almost 400 students involved in it. So in our first year, we were able to 50 kids through the program and almost 400 kids through this subsidiary program called the Living Library, where we had 55 companies represented over a 2-day period, and kids got a chance to meet industry leaders and business owners and community stakeholders at a level that they never had a chance to do that. So we consider that to be success. We have 70% more funding going from year 1 to year 2 with the same funders. So whoever funded us our first year gave us more money the second year. And so we were able to do more with that and grow our programs and their efficiencies. So we're very happy about that. In our second year, what we want to do is be able to show that our program really does work, and that when we communicate it well, and I have been blessed to have a great board, and they are really good board ambassadors. So we speak the same language whenever we talk about JBA, is we've been able to get additional funding from private sources. So we've increased the number of our dollars in spending. We've had that increase come from multiple groups, more so than the first 2 that funded us years 1 and year 2. And then the third thing that we want to do to build trust is we wanted to be able to create an annual event that involved the whole community, that highlights what Jonesboro is all about. So we are about to have the first ever, all right, Delta Crawfish Festival here in Jonesboro. So the idea, and I see my friend Linda Santee on here because she's a big fan of this, but we're modeling it after the Jazz and Heritage Festival. So like 1 year, this year, it's just going to be a Saturday afternoon from 12 until 10, but we're looking to fill 50 vendors. We have 5 different, we have crawfish, we have barbecue, we have this, and we have a whole day full of different diverse bands that will be playing. And so that's going to be our fundraiser every year. Is that it invites the community. It's here in Jonesboro. It's really, really great. But from here, we can show, again, increased funding, more people funding us, and then we can create our own revenue stream. Now we have a way of showing that, you know, we're here to stay and that we're sustainable. And that what we are trying to do with our youth is really, really worth the investment and time of the community.
I love that. And congratulations on those major successes. That's not something to take lightly, for sure. But I will say, you know, we've talked quite a bit. So I want to see if, you know, we can open the floor for any questions that any attendees might have. Let's see. Have you seen this model replicated in other cities?
Yes. So the model that we follow is one called community-based economic inclusion. Okay. And the components of that are just what I stated before: scope, scale, and integration. That's the model for a community based economic inclusion model. If you have those three factors, it happens all the time. And the ultimate goal is, again, who do you want to help? What's the scale? What programs do you have that can reach? Are they sustainable? Is there a high level of innovation? I think innovation has a huge space here in the nonprofit world. We need to be able to meet the needs of the underserved quicker, faster, more accountability, and a higher level of community involvement to make that happen. So innovation is part of that. And then again, it cannot be understated, the amount and the complexity of building collaborations of major stakeholders and then groups that represent the underserved and stuff. So yes, that's the model.
And we have another question as well. I guess I know you kind of talked about your time frame as far as the organization being built, but can you kind of go over like from like the first planning of the Jonesboro Business Association to, you know, how it grew, how you were able to find like-minded individuals to join your organization and your board, and what that time frame was like?
Yeah, so I mean, the whole idea came to me right after the 2020 year where there's so much upheaval. So the basis of again my career, my training is about getting people to talk and how do we listen to them empathetically and how do you grow. So talking to different groups of people in civilly is really the basis of what we need to do. My board members are just people who share the same passion as I do about communication, our community, and our children, okay? And they are huge advocates and fighters in their natural state. So having a clear sense of what is it that you really want to do, and then creating a board. Our first year, again, was what do we want to do? I cannot underemphasize the idea of nonprofits having a logic model right after you write your business plan. What are we doing, and then what outcomes that we want to see once we put all of these things in place? When we decided on youth, and really the age groups were, you know, phase 1, phase 2, junior high school, and then young adult, we really looked at how do we form relationships with schools. So we targeted one school mainly because two of the board members, our kids go to the same school. So we figured Annie Camp, but it took us a year to understand how schools work. And so we were adaptable, customizable. Our programs were able to be shifted according to what their needs were and the needs of their faculty and staff. Again, we're not here to take over, disrupt, we're here to aid, because our customer is the student. So we did that. In our second year, we went back to the same school and we had to change again. So here's where we pivot. So each year that we don't launch a program each year. Our plan is to launch a program, study the program, execute it in the second year, and then go to the next program in the third year. So this year in 2024, we're going to launch the second program, or the next phase rather, the Inspire phase. But we have now enough data and enough ways to show how can we customize to fit into the school. This year was a particular challenge because the school administration changed a little bit and we were not able to execute the program over a 2-day period. It was a 1-day. That inspired us to grow, or to push us to grow a little bit different. So now we're going to move the program going into, at the end of our fiscal year, we're going to go into a freestanding building, and it's going to become a Saturday program. So to answer your question, we designed the program, one, to be customizable for the student and the school, because that is primary where we're going to be doing, where we will be drawing from, and to enhance one's education. And the other one is to design a system for our volunteers and businesses that are low barrier. So the commitment is really 2 hours, one to shoot a video, one to be in a class. and then you're done. But the impact of that 2 hours is immeasurable. The second program is 9 weeks, but each one of our programs is 8 to 9 weeks, but we have 9 different people or companies showing and doing that workshop. So again, even with the second program, it's one time for 2 hours every 8 weeks if I need to do that. But hopefully we won't even have to, we can just cycle through it, we have it. But to design programs that it's not a huge time constraint on those who are extremely busy and will have the most value to the student to get them involved. So we created things that were one, customizable and easier, low barriers to entry for our volunteers and stuff.
That makes sense. And I guess from that answer, it is more evident that this is kind of an evidence-based program, evidence-based approach. So given that, what are the metrics or kind of key performance indicators that are really valuable when talking about economic development?
Yeah, so in the ultimate goal is so in phase 1, what we want to do is have the child just have a different picture of themselves. So that's what we call the dream phase. At the end of the program, if you think better and more highly of yourself, or that you know that you can navigate some obstacles, then we consider that to be a program winner. So one, we look at participation. Did 25 start? Did 25 end? That's number one. The second thing is we do a pre-session survey where we measure positive and negative responses around truancy. How do you overcome obstacles? The importance of completing assignments. Is your opinion the only opinion? You know, who's here to support you? There's different things that we ask them because there's 8 different topics. And then we measure the the percentage of positive responses in the beginning, and then the number of positive responses afterwards, asking the same questions. And when a child in the beginning says, well, when you have a question about, you know, something's going on in the community, where do you go? In the beginning, they go, no. At the end, they'll go, well, there's a local radio station and they have a community bulletin board that does this. I can go to my school counselor for this one. And now I know who my city council member is in my particular district because we can't get trash pickup. Now kids are kind of like understanding that just because there's an issue doesn't mean that there's not a solution to the problem and that they can work around it. So we look at that in stage 1. Stage 2, phase 2, what we're really looking for is, again, beginning, there's workshops to really pull out of the child to understand the history of entrepreneurship, especially in the United States, that there are different types of entrepreneurs. Find the one that's good for you, but really, honestly and truly, it's identifying that child with their passion versus their skill. Because good entrepreneurs will tell you what they do, they're just passionate about it. Okay, so connecting that child with that passion. There's an internship that goes along with that. That is a guided internship with business owners that are invested in what we are doing. So we wanted to learn soft skills. Kid comes to work this way. They engage. They have to do an interview. That's that format. The last stage of phase number 2 is really this. We will have a competition for a business plan that will be reviewed by a business networking group that I'm with here in Jonesboro, called Business Network International. It's hugely successful group. But this group will review this, and the best business plan will get a $2,000 seed money to start their business. The incubator, which we're still networking and trying to, you know, find funding for that one, but that's a 2026 goal. That one right there is just the more businesses that we open, okay? At the end of it, it's really the brick and mortar. Whoever starts, comes through the program, the more new businesses that are registered in the city. And again, not who shows up at an expo or the farmer's market. We want them to have a brick and mortar, pay rent. You just bought the building. We want storefront properties to be open with a parking lot and the whole 9 yards. That's what the goal is right there. And to be recognized that this section of the state had all of the anchor institutions pouring into community-based organizations that did all the heavy lifting to move the needle forward. Those are our measures.
Wonderful, wonderful. We have another question from the audience. They asked, do you see hospitality work either front or back of house as good training for building connections and leveraging opportunities?
Being in the restaurant industry for over 30 years, that's a difficult one. But yes, if you want to, there's no better place to develop your soft skills than in the restaurant industry. To try to take a majority unskilled labor force and have them marching towards a goal, okay, is huge, number one. Number two, showing hands-on the different ways that taking on additional responsibilities, that your one's innate skills in leadership or accounting or being able to multitask can lead to bigger and better things. Those opportunities are there for them in the restaurant industry. So yes, I do see that. I do see that, but more so towards making sure that the entry-level employee gets into management. And there's a group down in New Orleans that I think does a good job of that, Cafe Reconcile, that does a really good job of it's a nonprofit social entrepreneurship model that offers opportunity, that gets people a chance to do some amazing things with their lives and do some turnaround stuff.
I'm a big fan of Cafe Reconcile. Not only is their food really, really amazing, but they're doing really good work. So
yeah,
the 2-for-1 special for sure. But I'd like to kind of just wrap up and kind of ask you any of your final thoughts. And we've been talking about your organization, your growth, but just in general, like if you had anything that the audience, should definitely leave with after this conversation, what would it be?
Whatever you do, try to always aspire to do be at the top of the Maslow's pyramid, okay? Make sure that your passion is connected with who you are. What you're doing is connected with your passion to who you are. I would say that. Two, it is possible, but you have to be mindful, you have to be creative, you have to have the capability to scale, but you can create something from nothing, okay? If you have the right idea, if it's cultivated, and you create a scalable plan, you can make things happen. And again, the route that we're taking with the nonprofit, it was really, how do I start something that has an impact, that I don't have to mortgage my house, I don't have to tap into my 401k. How do I get that to happen? So how do I do it intelligently, And so that's what we created. And again, the pacing and sequencing is there. So anything is possible. So I say, go for your dreams, make sure you're passionate about it, and make sure you have a plan that you're willing to make adjustments along the way.
I love that. Have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
As a planner myself, I can definitely agree with that. But we've also been talking about building connections as well during this whole conversation. So how can people get in touch with you if they have more questions, or if they want to, connect with your organization in the future? Oh,
definitely. So you can always find us on Facebook. Just look up the Jonesboro Business Association. Our website we just launched a new website this year. Has lots of connectivity in there. That's jonesborobusinessassociation.com. All of our information, the board, our mission statement, information about the Crawfish Festival is on there. And any questions or any way that you would like to support us or connect us with anything, it's all in there, and you'll be able to get in contact with us that way.
Perfect. I think Nina linked the website in the chat, so
Okay.
feel free to copy and paste that. And I think that's it. I want to say thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Henry, for having this conversation with me. You know, when we talked a couple months ago, I knew it was going to be, you know, a hit, and that we were really going to talk about some real life things. So thank you for joining us as well.
No, thank you for having me. Look, you and I, when we talk, there are a lot of people that I went to school with that are really impressed with you and the things that you're doing. And we want to continue to find ways to support you. Like we were there in the beginning. And when we see the growth of the university and how the students are all connected, it's just a beautiful thing. So can keep up the good work, and yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do more projects together, and as we grow, I'll keep you guys updated.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you,
Thanks,
Henry.
everyone.
Keelan.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Henry. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you. All right, bye.
Enjoy.